welcome back to my channel. So this week, look at your face. So this week we're going to be talking about things that nobody tells you about C-sections or cesareans. So if you watch my labour and delivery story, which I'll link down below, you'll know that I had an emergency C-section after a 39-hour labour. Quite a traumatic labour, all in all. And even though I felt like I'd kind of prepared myself for a C-section, I don't think anyone plans to have an emergency C-section, obviously. So it did come as it was kind of bittersweet. Like when I was told it's time for you to, well, the word C-section had been battered around for the last 2 hours of my labour, and I kind of accepted that that's probably where we were going. But yeah, if you haven't watched my labour and delivery story, basically your face, Rory's head got stuck and my waters have been broken for way over 24 hours. So the longer it was going on, the more at risk he was and I was to infection. And his head was just stuck. I couldn't push him out, basically. And also my cervix, the last part, wouldn't dilate. So it was just all going against me to push him out. So I've been pushing for about 2 hours. My epidural had worn off, so I was getting really tired. I've been in labour for about 38 hours. I hadn't slept. I was shattered. And they kind of said, I think we have to take you down to surgery. And it was kind of bittersweet. Like, obviously that's not what anybody wants. But when I was pushing, I knew nothing was happening. So there was kind of no progression, or like I wasn't any closer to seeing my baby, whilst when they said, we're going to take you down for a cesarean, you'll see your baby within the next hour. I really didn't want a cesarean. I wasn't emotional about it at the time, but I was emotional about it afterwards. But yeah, it was kind of nice to know that after everything we'd gone through, it was finally over. But yeah, there was loads of things I didn't know about cesarean. There's loads of things I don't tell you about cesarean. So I'm going to go through my little list, and also I might have some impromptu ones that like kind of spring to mind as I go on. Okay, so this is in no order either, like I've just kind of jotted it down. So the first one is that the first thing that I didn't know is that you will lose the feeling around your incision. So this doesn't happen for everybody. Well, I think it happens for everybody, but I think it comes back for a lot of people. I still haven't got any feeling back around my scar, and like up to probably my belly button is still kind of numb. And that's where they've cut all the nerve endings when they've obviously cut your belly open. That for me was quite hard. Like at first I didn't mind because I was told by the midwives that it would come back. And then I think I spoke to a doctor at his 8-week checkup, or both of our 6-week checkup. And they were like, it's highly unlikely that you'll ever feel that area again, which when you're kind of still postpartum and still a little bit upset about what happened, it's quite, it's not nice, like, to know that your belly's always going to be numb. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I had no idea about is that you'll have to inject yourself afterwards. So for 10 days afterwards, I had to inject myself with something called Clexane. I think that's what it's called, which is basically something you inject in your belly, but I think you can inject it into your thigh as well. For the first 3 days, Rich was doing it for me, but then I just did it myself just because we both kept on forgetting, so it was just easier for me to do it than get both of us to do it. And he could hold the baby whilst I did it. Yeah, you have to inject yourself. I'm okay with stuff like that, like I'm not massively upset about needles or anything, but I think for somebody that's something that you don't realise afterwards. But you have to do it to reduce the risk of having a blood clot after surgery. Obviously, because after any major surgery, your risk of blood clot is quite high. Where is the next one? The third thing that I never realised is that the recovery is really painful. So when I was pregnant, I kept on saying to everybody that I really didn't want a C-section because I thought that your risk of your scar splitting was really high or something like that. My scar healed really nicely after about 3 days. It was pretty much sealed, and there was kind of there's never been like a point where I've been like, oh my god, I've torn it, but I never really pushed myself. But what I didn't realise is that you're in absolute agony, especially for the first week or so, week to 10 days I would say. It hurts to cough, sneeze, laugh. I remember the day after in hospital, when I was still in hospital recovering, after like the adrenaline high of your baby and the drugs that they've given you have worn off, I remember just hobbling around the hospital floor and being like, what the has happened to me? Like, you're in so much pain. And that's from where obviously you've been cut open, your insides have been taken out, plopped on either side of you on the bed, and they've been like bruising your stomach muscles so much from what they're doing, and obviously your stomach muscles aren't used to that kind of like brutality, I guess. So yeah, the recovery for me, like I can say it quite happily now, but if you watch my labour and delivery story, I was still very much postpartum and I was crying my eyes out about my cesarean. It was horrible. I remember we had a Moses basket here, and the first night, the first 3 nights, Rory kept on spitting his tummy out and then kind of waking himself up, and I physically couldn't lift myself off the bed to put my hand into his Moses basket and give him back his tummy, and I felt like a real piece of shit. Like, I remember feeling so useless. Like, when you're a new mum, you want to be able to do everything for your baby. Yeah, I just felt like so useless. So we bought the She Can Next to Me crib, which did really help, but it's just so hard. Like, if I sat on the sofa with him, I couldn't get back up again. I needed help. Also, the first night we got back, I couldn't even sit on the sofa because the drop was too low. I had to like prop myself up with cushions. Same again with bed. Like, it was just a nightmare to get out of bed. Doing night feeds was such hard work. Getting a bottle was such hard work. Just getting out of bed was such hard work. And I don't know if I made this point, so if I have, then we'll have to go back. But also the first, so I had my cesarean at 10 o'clock, he was born at 10:21, and from 10 till 5 somebody else had to care for him, which was really hard because when you're a new mum you want to like kind of get stuck in and stuff. It was kind of nice because you get the chance to recover because somebody else is looking after the baby, but you don't really sleep. I think if you've had a baby, you know that if you're on labour ward you don't sleep because you don't know your baby's cry, and obviously other babies are crying, so you'll wake up for that. Any noise your baby makes, you're looking in the mirror, any noise your baby makes, you'll wake up anyway, even if they're just like snuffling. So you don't really get to sleep as it is, but I found it really hard looking after my baby. At 5 o'clock they take you to go for a walk. Not at 5 o'clock, but a couple of hours later they'll take you up for a walk. That is the hardest thing in the whole world, getting out of bed for the first time after a cesarean. They take you for a walk to again reduce real risk of blood clots, and at 5 o'clock they were like, right, he needs a nappy change and a feed, so we'll go and do that. And I was like, no, it's my turn now. I really want to start looking after my baby. So yeah, that was hard, I think. And also when I was in hospital as well, like I was in bed and they put his cot like way, like so far away from me I couldn't even see him, and the cots are see-through. And I remember like calling a midwife back and being like, can you just bring him here please, because I actually want to look at my child that I've just given birth to. But it's hard that you can't even get out of bed to move his own cot. The next one is you won't get that moment. This isn't true for everybody at all. I just know that from me and talking to some other mums that it's kind of a good, I don't know, it's good to set yourself up for that, I would say. This isn't just unique to cesareans too. There's a lot of pressure for mums when they've given birth. Even like giving birth is long and hard labour, and sometimes when you're done with it you're too out of it and too exhausted to even cope with the baby. So sometimes don't feel guilty if you don't get that moment. So when I had Rory, I definitely didn't. When I was having surgery, I was really calm at first, and then when they gave me the pain medicine, it made me like violently shake like this, like my whole body was just moving. So they gave me something to try and stop me shaking, which then made me want to throw up. So when you're lying flat on your back and you can't move, throwing up's a really like scary thought, because you're like, I'm going to choke on my own sick, how the hell am I going to get this vomit out of my mouth? And the shaking was exhausting me. So bearing in mind I've been awake for 38 hours, I was now shaking like a leaf, wanting to throw up on my back. Yeah, and I think the hardest thing is they don't tell you that the baby's coming out, and they don't show you him straight away. Like, this is probably not true for everybody. This might have just been because it's an emergency cesarean. But yeah, so I remember them saying something like, do you want to look? But they meant to Rich, but I thought they meant to me. And I was falling asleep at this point because it's the first time I've laid down. I kept on coming in and out of sleep during the whole cesarean. And I was like, no, I don't want to see anything. Because obviously who wants to? But yeah, so Rich stood up and looked. I think, yeah, it took a while. Like, Rory was pulled out. I remember hearing him cry and being like, oh my God, like, he's here. But they don't like lift him over the thing. Like, obviously when you have a natural birth, you are giving your baby with goo all over him, you're giving the skin to skin, you know, and you kind of have that in your head that you're going to have that. we didn't have that at all. They didn't tell us that. They didn't tell us that they'd take him away, wash it. Like, obviously they probably take him away to check him for infection and stuff and make sure he's okay. But when they brought him over, he had a nappy on, he had a hat on, he was wrapped in a blanket and he was clean, and they brought him over to Rich. So that was really hard, and again, like, I just wanted to sleep at this point. So when they brought him over, they said something like, have you seen his eyelashes? Because he's got really, really long eyelashes. And my comment being like, obviously I've not seen his eyelashes because you've just brought him over. Yeah, quite a sarcastic comment, but relevant, I feel. Yeah, they gave him to Rich. And I remember thinking, like, oh my god, he's stunning. Like, he was such, well, he is a beautiful baby, but when he was first born, he was just like a little angel. He was beautiful, but that was it. That's literally all I felt. Like, he could have been anybody's baby. Hang on, let me just get you a bottle. Oh, yeah, it could have been anybody's baby, and that was really hard. They then, I can't remember how it went. I can't remember if Rich fed him first, or if they tried to put him on me first. Well, the way they put him on me, I had my arm like this, and they put him like on my arm too. So I was pretty stuck and couldn't really hold him. So I was just like, just get him off. Like, this is not like nice at all. So yeah, it didn't. And then when we got wheeled back to the room, I was really proud. Like, Rich said I cried as well, which I don't remember. I was really proud. I was like, look at him, he's beautiful, but still didn't have that kind of feeling. It just takes a while to sink in, I think. And it wasn't until everyone left about an hour later, because after a cesarean as well, you have a lot of people in the room. So I have my mum, my stepdad, Rich, the midwife, a backup midwife, and the anaesthetist, all trying to talk to me at once, all trying to show me the baby. And then the anaesthetist was like, we can do skin to skin again. So I was like, yeah, obviously I want to do it because it's important, and I had that vision when I was pregnant that we were going to do that. Yeah, and I had a lot of people watching me and waiting for my reaction, and that was a lot of pressure too, which I found really hard. So it wasn't until everybody left that I kind of felt something. So we were back in the room about 11, and then I stayed there, got 3 hours sleep, and then at 2 they were like, right, we're going to wheel you down to the labour ward, like the high intense, like the high care one. And they gave me my baby to hold because they were like, it's cold, so if you could just kind of wrap him up in your blankets and stuff, because yeah, the lift is cold. And that was kind of when I was like, oh my god, like, this is my baby and I love him. And I'm like carrying him like I was like carrying a bar of gold or something. And it did take a while, and that was really, really not difficult. I don't feel guilty for it, but you should probably like, there should probably be more talk about it. Like, obviously when you're pregnant and stuff, obviously when you're pregnant and stuff, you're all building up for this one born every minute moment where you're giving your baby all covered in goo, and you clean him off and you have skin to skin, and it's amazing, and you cry and you feel this huge rush of love. And that was really hard. That I didn't ever get that. So yeah, that I struggled with. What else? You still have postpartum bleeding. That really confused me. I always thought that postpartum bleeding when I was pregnant, my memory card just died, and now Rory is in this activity gym, so I am babyless. So yeah, what did I get? Yeah, you still have postpartum bleeding. So I always thought that postpartum bleeding was caused by like trauma to like obviously your like vagina. I always thought postpartum bleeding was due to trauma from labour, like through the birth canal and stuff, and it was kind of exiting out. But no, it's because your placenta has come away, and that is what the bleeding is. I actually had really intense postpartum bleeding. I bled for about 5 or 6 weeks. The first, when normally it's like 2 or 3 weeks. The last 2 weeks were really light, but yeah, I think that really shocked me because I kind of thought I was exempt from that. You'll be paralysed for about 7 hours afterwards. If you have an epidural, like, you get pretty used to that anyway. I had an epidural before I even had a cesarean, like, so I was paralysed for quite a long time, probably about 24 hours in total, which is kind of, yeah, I don't know if you realise that either, but to be honest, you probably won't want to be getting up at all. So yeah, it's pretty brutal as well. That's my next point. It really shocked me how conscious you are of everything. Obviously you're awake. The first thing that I thought was like hideous, I was gonna say horrendous and hideous, was that they make you sign a consent form before you even go down, telling you all the things that could go wrong. That really annoyed me because you're kind of trying to deal with lots of things. Like at that point my mum was crying, Rich is getting suited up, somebody shaved my bikini line, and they're telling me like, oh, if we do damage to your bladder, we'll fix it whilst we're in there. And I just remember thinking, like, if I had a car accident and had to have some major surgery after that, you wouldn't like wake me up and be like, oh, could you just sign this consent form? I thought it was really sad that they're in a position where you have to sign a consent form. So yeah, so that first of all was brutal. Then you get down there, you have about 7 people trying to move you from one bed to the other, and I remember making a comment like, I'm not that big, right? But obviously because you're a dead weight, but you're naked for this as well, like, so that was kind of really intimidating. Yeah, and then the whole process, you can not feel the pain obviously, but you can feel all the tugging, you can feel like your baby literally being wrenched out of you. People say it feels like somebody's doing washing up in your stomach. I feel like it was more like somebody's kneading bread in your stomach, like punching and folding, and it was, yeah, it was a really brutal experience. I remember Rich saying, like, say this is the bed and this is me. It was so vigorous that the whole time I was going, like, I was moving on the bed. So it's pretty vigorous and no one kind of really pre-warns you about that. What else? Getting out of bed, stuff like that, your scar. My scar was like, it still itches really badly. That I didn't realise. Yeah, so I'm nearly 4 months postpartum. I'm 16 weeks 16 weeks postpartum. So yeah, my scar is still so itchy all the time. What else? The operating team are really friendly, but for me it really pissed me off. So there's quite a few people in there, like way more than I realised, and they are just kind of acting like you've just walked into a shop. Then when you get on the bed, they're like, right, we're just gonna all introduce each other, and like Rich loved that, but for me I was like, can we just crack on now, because I'm pretty tired, I want to see my baby, I'm about to have major surgery, I'm not gonna remember any of your names, so nor do I need to learn them. But they would say like, I'm such and such and I do this. I remember like not listening to any of that and just kind of wanting them to hurry up and just do the operation. I remember some girl, to be fair, they were so nice. They kept on saying like, oh, you're right, sweet, like, and, like being really friendly, and they're really nice to Rich. But I remember like some girl came over and she was like, oh, do you mind if we play music? No, I heard her say, do you want some music? And I was like, no, thank you. And then she was like, would you mind if we play something? And I was like, okay. And they played music the whole way through. And I remember like Rory was born to Coldplay, which Rich was livid about because he hates Coldplay. But yeah, it was nice. Like obviously if everyone was running around like a headless chicken, you'd be really anxious. The fact they were really calm probably made me calmer. But yeah, the whole introduction thing, I was like, right, we need to just start because I'm pretty fed up now. So yeah, that really surprised me how nice everyone is. Stronger every day. Let's have a look. I've kind of repeated myself a lot like on my notes, but we'll try and get through it. Yeah, the like main thing is that like for me, not for everybody, but for me, the mental recovery was so much harder than the physical recovery. I was really hard on myself for quite a long time afterwards. I just felt really like, I don't know, cheated. I think for a long time I thought it was my fault for having an epidural because I was like pretty much ready to push at about 5 o'clock on the day he was born, 5 o'clock in the morning, and the midwife was saying, you know, just try gas and air, but because I've been in labour for about 28 hours, I was like, no, I need to sleep, I need the epidural, had the epidural, and that slowed labour right down. I wasn't ready to push until 7 p.m. that same day. So I've gone from 5 a.m. being told, you know, in the next hour you could be ready to push. I wasn't then ready till 7 p.m. because I had to be re-induced. So I thought that was the reason that I had to have the cesarean for a really long time, because I didn't talk about it at first, and then it was Rich that was like, no, like his head was coming out wonky, so you would always have had to have the cesarean. That really annoyed me too because labour was really hard work, so I was like, the whole time I could have just had the cesarean. But yeah, the mental recovery is way harder. I felt really cheated at first. Initially I was like, right, I'm gonna have a VBAC birth and I'm gonna do it all again and I'm gonna get my natural labour. And then the more it dawns on you, the statistics, that actually VBAC's really hard to achieve after a cesarean. Let me just get him. Oh, are you okay now? Yeah, VBAC's really hard to achieve after a cesarean, so then you kind of have to swallow the pill of, well, do I just have an elective cesarean next time? Elective cesareans are meant to be a nicer experience and the recovery is meant to be better. Hang on. Come on then, you. Ooh. Come on then, you. Yeah, and so yeah, that was kind of a really hard thing to swallow. You just feel like you didn't do your job properly. I remember feeling like, not like, I was still really happy for all of my friends that had natural births and stuff, but yeah, I just felt really like upset that I didn't have that natural birth. I didn't get that like kind of what you plan for, and that's probably, like, I remember saying my whole pregnancy, I was like, oh, I have no plan, but in your head I think you naturally just do expect to have a straightforward labour, like that's obviously what you hope for. Yeah, and the main thing is that it's not your fault. It's really hard to take it upon yourself and to feel like you didn't do your job properly. It's definitely not the easy way out. I'm fed up of people saying that. I can't compare because obviously I haven't had a natural birth, but the recovery, oh my Christ, is so hard. I'm gonna do like a whole other video on like it's not the easy way out because I've got huge opinions on that. And then the main thing I would say that I wish I'd found out sooner is that you get so much stronger. Do you want to jump? Each and every single day. And the best thing that I did was get out a few days later. So I think I had Rory on the Tuesday, was discharged on the Wednesday, and on the Saturday we took Rory out to get registered. And just having that walk, was it the Saturday? No, the Friday, because the Saturday I had to take him to the midwife. Just those walks really, really, really helped to take the pressure off. They made me feel like a human again. They made me feel like, yeah, just a bit better. But anyway, I don't think I can talk much more with this child going on. But I'm going to do a blog post on this. If I think of anything else, I'll mention it in there. And like I said, I'm going to do like a video on getting over like labour trauma because I was so upset after my labour for a long time, and I'm going to do a video on it not being the easy way out. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next one. Oh, see you in the next video. Bye.